What's up, everyone? Amber and Christian here.
Hey, what's
How are
going
you
on?
doing? How you doing today, honey?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I am really excited to roll out this, very, very interesting conversation. You and I were talking about this earlier, and it had created some massive, massive, massive breakthroughs for me. And I think a lot of people would really appreciate this conversation, especially if they're, building wealth in the business space. And
Mhm.
I just really feel like we needed to take it online and kind of hash it out and share it with the world.
Sounds good. What was your breakthrough earlier?
Well, a lot deeper than okay, thanks for putting me on the spot right out the gate. So, I have a history of being one of those people that kind of like can overthink things, can worry about things, can create problems in my own life based on fear, and I didn't really recognize that in myself. I just looked at the world like it was like a problem we needed to solve. Everything that happens is like some sort of problem we need to solve, and it's allowed me to make life a whole lot more difficult than it really needs to be. And I've never really felt it easy to just kind of let go and tap into the things I actually want. Instead, I found myself swimming upstream a lot, unraveling a lot of deep stuff. And, I didn't really ever, I had trouble figuring out why.
Mhm.
But more than anything, I wanted out of it. And I've created a lot of success each and every step of the way, but I knew it could be so much easier than it has been. And so for me, the biggest breakthrough was just like totally releasing attachment for probably one of the first times. And I've had, like I said, little bits of it before, but like total life changing transformation today from what you exposed to me.
Nice. Let's unpack that a little bit. So let's dive in here.
Hello,
The
hello, everyone.
the I just want to share some breakthroughs that I personally had going
Yeah.
deep with mindset stuff, and then that's how this breakthrough happened with Amber as well. And I think in like as we're talking, after you had that shift, there was definitely a change in communication, and I said, "Oh, this is a really interesting form of or like communication that's coming through right now from you." What that tells me is that your thoughts have changed around these ideas.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're building business, or let's say if you're doing anything, you tend to maybe you get a little bit of traction and things seem to go well, and you think that oh man, this is like the next level, or I figured it out, and then all of a sudden things start crumbling down, and then you lose that traction. It's like taking, two steps forward and three steps back, and then two steps forward and then, two steps back. And then it's like kind of this game. You're
Yeah.
like, what the heck? And it feels like there's a splinter, like, or there's something just like driving you nuts, right? Like you just got to get to the bottom of it. And I think
Yeah.
that's
And
kind of
I
what.
want to interject something.
Yep.
This conversation is for the person that knows that and is actually fully committed to changing that, like for good, in order to increase I was going to say increase your life experience. Like you've made a choice, like, yes, that resonates, and no
Mhm.
more. Give me the secrets. Tell me your thoughts. I'm doing everything to change that so I could be happier, so I could be more successful, so I could show up bigger, so I could track the right people, so I could help more people. Like this conversation is going to be deep, but it's for that person that is like, I'm totally ready to like go to the next level in this coming year through these discoveries.
Nice. And that really kind of brings us to the topic of discussion too, is like the secret, the law of attraction, manifesting, that type of thing. And I found that this thing has become, obviously it's old information, but it's something that drives a lot of people forward. And I think there's a lot of definitely
Misconception.
stuff that's missing from it,
Yeah.
but also stuff that is, I think, um, the the view is there's a missing steps. That's what it is. There's missing steps. And
So
so,
people find out this and then they try to implement it and then nothing changes.
yeah, and they think that that's the way out, right? Like the secret stuff, manifesting, law of attraction, yada yada.
Yeah.
There's missing steps, and there's stuff that is so sequential steps, and there's stuff that is also, I
Like
think,
energetic frequency stuff.
misinterpreted. Maybe
That's
I'm not
true.
sure what it is exactly, but what it comes
Mhm.
down to is, having that one breakthrough that creates the biggest amount of change in the positive direction for your life.
That happened to me today.
Yeah. The biggest
Mhm.
amount of change in the positive direction for your life, the one breakthrough. So if you were to think about what that is, you know, what would that be for you watching this? Would it be financial? Would it be health related? Would it be relationships? Would it be the combination of all? What would that be? And drop it in chat if you want to share as well. For
So
Amber,
what's the question exactly?
what would the one breakthrough be that would change your life in a positive direction for good?
Can you give an example? Because I don't know if people will know, like, well, what's my one breakthrough? I don't know. That's why I'm here.
Well, that's why you're not supposed to know. But if you could know, what would it be?
What kind of things could it be? That's what I'm saying. It's a tough question to understand.
Because you're getting blocked subconsciously, right? So this actually opens up kind of this conversation, because the key here isn't knowing. The key here is accessing. And so this is an exercise in itself. It's self-fulfilling. And so I want you to go through this exercise right now. If you could know, what would it be? If you did know, what would it be? Right? So if you could have that one breakthrough that would change your life for good forever in a positive
Mhm.
way, what would it be?
I got it.
Go ahead. You said it happened
Also,
today, so it should be pretty easy, but
yeah, well, and it popped in my head in a new way.
yeah.
Is just like the fact that nothing can hurt me. And I know that's a really
Mm,
broad statement to make, and a lot of people would go, there's a lot of things that can hurt you. But I mean, ultimately, like as a soul, as a divine light, as an energetic frequency.
yeah.
I'm going down a tunnel now, aren't I? Like ultimately nothing can hurt me.
So
And
that translates to, on the positive side, you are safe,
right.
right? And so as I'm going through these mindset shifts myself, one of the things that was brought to my attention was, what's your belief about the world? Do you believe that you as an individual ultimately are safe or not? And the question around this really brought some light to a lot of things, being that if you think that you're not safe, everything in life is going to be much more difficult, probably 10 times to 100 times more difficult. And this is
The,
kind of what you were going through, right? To a certain
well,
degree.
here's the interesting part. Most people who listen to this probably aren't walking around feeling like they're not safe, but they're making choices and they're living life based on deep subconscious beliefs that they're not.
Yeah.
That's the difference. I'm not walking I definitely haven't been walking around the last 10 years thinking I'm not safe. Definitely not. But every decision I make, my reaction to everything that happens. I mean I could make it nuanced. Like
Mm.
literally everything, like so many little things, you guys. Literally insane. The way I was living my life was of like, how can that hurt me? How can that hurt me? How do I protect myself? Like
Yeah.
once you see this stuff, you can't unsee it. But I don't know when that changed. I was living my life like just in a really twisted way based on like making sure I stayed safe. And you almost have to be with me for like a week to really understand. But just observe yourself. When you get an inbound question, or when somebody needs something, or when you go out and to go get something, or when you buy things, or when you drive a car, or when you lock up the house at night, or when you like literally all the little things that you do, recognize if you're coming to things from a place like selling or coaching or anything. Are you coming from a place of like everything's always working out for me, or are you coming from a place of like defensiveness? Like if you look at like offense and defense in football, for instance, like are you living life on offense or are you living life on defense? You'll
Yeah.
probably be surprised.
Yeah. So this is kind of surface level stuff, but we need to start at the surface and we need to go deep with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so subconscious work, most powerful work you can do. There's definitely, we've been doing it for what, 7 years or so, and
Yeah.
we're still kind of unraveling new things, new ideas. And there was some things that came to me today as I was going through some of these breakthroughs that were presented, and I think they'll help a lot of people watching this video. So Amber and I were having this discussion, and I said, "Hey, look, I think I found what could be potentially holding you back." And it all comes back down to fear, right? Ultimately, and if you look at like the greats in the world, they look like they're fearless. They act like they're fearless. But
And the true greats might be fearless now because they've had to overcome a lot of fear.
yeah, yeah. So
That's
so if we look
that's
at
the
that,
stuff I love about life. The
if we
real
look at
the people who've been through some stuff. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, if you look at the hero's journey, 80%
Mhm.
of the hero's journey is the negative stuff that happens to the hero to create the biggest breakthroughs ever, and then go to the next level as a hero. But so this is definitely there, but the fear is the thing that a lot of these people override somehow. So if we look at any metric that drives a result or that gets a result on a deep level, you can clearly see that fear is a metric that must be um, charted and like understood, but it also must be overridden to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And so there's a way to do this that is safe and powerful, and there's a way to do this that's obviously like um, false. And I think the law of attraction stuff is kind of a false thing there, right? And so
It's
let's start to unpack this a bit.
it
So
falls short.
Amber had a seriously big life breakthrough this morning. It all had to do with fear and like basically removing the fear, right? Being able to see through the fear and
Yeah.
coming from a place. And so the question that I asked was, you know, do you see the world as a safe place? And this is the same
And
question that I went through, and I saw my own reaction to this, and I said, "Yes, I do. Actually, I see it as a safe place." But your reaction was no, right?
yeah,
Up
my
until now.
reaction was, "Holy shnikes." I've been living my life for many, many years from a place accidentally that the world was not safe.
Yeah.
And it was the most profound breakthrough because it was like, "Oh, that's why that happened, that's why I do this, that." It one of those, those breakthroughs that are the best because, like, they tick all the boxes. When especially as an entrepreneur, you come up with a new offer or something like that, and you're really pumped about it, and then, like, over the course of the next week, like, it solves, like, 10 unexpected problems,
Yep.
like, just the most badass new ideas and things like that. It was that kinda thing where it's like, "Oh, that realization showed me not only this and this and this and this that helps me right this second, but it shows me this. Like I've literally been accidentally, subconsciously, totally living life like it's an unsafe place."
Yeah, so that's gonna make things easily 10 times harder, but potentially 100 times harder. And more
Mhm.
importantly, as you make steps forward, and specifically, I don't know if you're open to share this, but there's a specific topic around like this false sense of safety that you had.
Yeah,
If you're open to share it, then I'll say it.
of course.
Um, so it's around money, right? So like the money made you feel like you were safe. And I'm like, you'll get the money, you'll take 3 steps forward, and then you'll sabotage yourself and the money will go and you'll take 4 steps back, right? And then you kind of play this game. And
But
the
there was a
reason is
nuanced thing here. Is that where you're going?
yeah, the reason isn't because the money was a safety, it's because your perception of the money was a safety trigger. And so if you perceive the money as the safety trigger, but it's not the real safety trigger, you will sabotage that thing. And that's what was happening.
So can I say it a different way?
Sure.
All right. So let's just pretend that you've got a subconscious belief that money equals safety.
Mhm.
Money, as an example, it could be anything. It'd be different for you. It could totally be, it could be attention, it could be love, it could be a lot of things. But let's just play with money because it's a real easy one. And in the business space, it's a big one. It's what we help most people with in the first place. So let's pretend that you have a subconscious belief. And Christian, maybe we can talk a little bit more about subconscious beliefs in a minute.
Yeah.
Say you live in your life from a subconscious belief, not even conscious, that money equals safety, right? So
Mhm.
you're motivated to be safe, you make money. And it's not about, grasping and losing and whatever, but if you're on that revenue roller coaster, which is normal for a lot of people at first, but doesn't have to be the way. What if your little subconscious mind that's programmed to keep you safe, working for you all the time, says, we got to get money because that'll make us safe? Because innately, I don't believe I'm safe.
Yep.
Okay, let's get some money. Okay, we got money. Awesome. Okay. And then here's why it's so nuanced. And this is so important. So I hope you really hear this. Your subconscious goes, oh shit, we're still not safe,
Exactly.
which means money doesn't equal safety, which means you might lose the money.
Oh, you're
Because
definitely
the
going to lose
only
the money.
reason you created it was because your subconscious did it for safety. And when it realized it still didn't create safety, what's the point of keeping it around? And this is all on an energetic level. I know you're not thinking this consciously, but that's what's happening on a subconscious level. And you're going, nope, that wasn't what creates safety. Screw the money then. And sometimes it goes away. And guess what? Then you're on to the next thing. Okay. Well, then what creates safety then? So then your subconscious is like, let's find another way. But there's usually one common thread in your life at different seasons of your life, right? So what I'm saying is you're not going to go, oh, it's money, oh, it's relationships, oh, it's this, that. It's not typically. For
Mm.
the most part, I've seen people play the same damn story over and over and over again. And that's why the money goes like this, right? Because you go, no, that wasn't it. Wait, no, it was it. Not having money feels way worse. So, you know what? Let's make some money again. Okay, made it. Shit, still not safe. It wasn't that then. And
Yep. And you just go through this loop, this cycle where
yeah,
you take 4 steps forward and 5 steps back, or 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And, it's like, it's constant and it never moves. It never breaks through. Right. And so the breakthrough is what we're looking for. So in order to cause the breakthrough, we have to get to some mechanics and some understanding of what's really happening. And so this is where the, so to speak, debunking of the law of attraction and manifestation kicks in. Because when you think about the law of attraction, you think about, there is a certain degree to that that's true, but there's a lot of missing pieces. When you think about manifestation, you think, oh, I've got to do something. That's what comes to my mind. I've got to
me
do
too.
something. And that automatically carries a negative kind of energy, right? Because there's
Not
work
only
involved.
that, it even without the sure, the negative connotation of like work, but also like it eliminates divinity from the picture. Because
Right.
it's like, oh, once again, I'm in control of this. I'm controlling this.
You are the creator. Let's look at that. You are the creator, or you are even the co-creator. Whether that's true or not, I'm not here to argue that. But what I do know is you are the process, right? You are definitely the process. Whether you're a creator or co-creator or any of those things, who knows? There is probably truth and depends on how you look at it. But what I do know is this around your safety stuff. The thing that makes you safe is the perception of safety.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to look at the perception of safety. In order to break through the perception of safety, what we have to do is understand really what is happening. And so, in order to get the perception of safety correct, we must do 2 things. We must have access to that perception and we must align that perception.
Access, law of access.
So, in other words, the secret really is all about access. Because here's the thing: if God, the creator, created everything and all that is. It's already here. Okay. It's not a matter of it being created or not. It's a matter of us accessing that thing that's been created.
And a lot of people have heard this before,
Mhm.
but they're just not living from that place.
Yeah, perception.
Right.
And
Like
so
this.
what we need to do, our responsibility being the process, is to perceive correctly. And so there's two things that need to be perceived, right? The access and the alignment. You experience, so here's the thing, here's where the result comes in. The manifestation, let's say. Your experience. You experience from the perception. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in other
I
words,
mean, think about this. Sorry, just for those
yep.
who need it. This is what comes through for me. Think about a location.
Mhm.
For some reason, I went straight back to the time we went to Disneyland and we were at Maria's house and we went to Whole Foods and we're eating those noodles outside on the outside Whole Foods, right? Who knows why that came to me? But here's the cool part. One perception's from the table, one perception's from a helicopter looking down on the situation. Like, depends on where you're viewing from. It's the same darn moment in time, right? There's For those
Yeah.
who have trouble bringing these etherical, like, is that the term? Like these unique
Abstract.
abstract concepts into actual reality, like, agree that there's proof that if I'm looking at this desk from that way, it's one thing. If I'm looking at it from out the window, it's a different thing. It's just perception. That's it.
It's the same thing, but it looks different.
Total.
And
It
so
looks totally different from a different
that's what was
perspective.
happening with you with safety. It's the same thing, but your perception around it caused it to be different for you, right? And you associated that with money specifically, and that's fine as long as you can keep the money always coming in at a much higher level, right?
Totally. Right.
The second that it goes down or something happens, which is part of business, part of life, then you're going to start to go back into the negative stuff. And the negative plays its place. It has its role. But what this means, simply put, is that it's not about manifesting or attracting, it's about accessing. Accessing what is already there through perceptions. If we can change the perception and grant access, then we can experience that result.
So what do you tell to someone? I mean, obviously you're the best coach for this ever because you've walked me through this so many times,
Sure.
countless times. I was joking with Christian earlier that I'm his hardest client. I'm his wife, by the way, in case you're not familiar with our work just yet. But I was joking that I'm his hardest client because he's chosen, thankfully, graciously, to really help me navigate through this stuff. Because I was creating problems on a really, really, really high level. But what do you say to someone who's like stuck in it and they're like, and you're thinking like, gosh, you just need to perceive this differently. Like, what what do you say about that? Because it's hard when you
Well,
can only see one way and you're, like, trapped in your own thoughts, you know?
we have to understand the mechanics behind this too.
Okay.
So we teach a lot about top down thinking, coming from the top down instead of going from the bottom up. Let's say you want to get to a goal. Let's say it's $1 million per year in the bank. You would start with $1 million per year in the bank, and you would work your way down, and the things that would need to be in place would show up. The other way to look at it would be, do the actions required to get to $1 million in the bank? Right now, here's the problem with that. The secret to access is allowance. The secret to allowance is permission. The reason why these both are very, very, very important is because the secret to experiencing the thing that you want is feeling. And so if your perception is screwed, and you're taking actions that create a negative feeling, that thing is 10 to 100 times less likely to actually be accessible.
Because of what problem exactly?
What do you mean?
What's the like nuanced thing you're doing wrong there?
Let's because you're going from the bottom up. So let's say the opposite would be let's go and do this action to get this result. You would go do the action, and let's say that action is to DM people or to do content or all the basic stuff. And then all of a sudden the negative thoughts come in like, oh, I don't know if I did this right or did I say the wrong thing or blah, blah, blah. That creates a negative feeling. The result attached to the thing that you are trying to get has a feeling behind it. The feeling is the secret to getting that thing because
Okay, so would you say that the action okay. I'm unraveling it just for all the brains that work differently around here.
sure.
Because what you're saying is the action, the energy by which you take the action creates the energy by which you get the result.
Um, okay, so let's backwards engineer this a little bit. So there's a reason why, let's say it's $1 million per year, right? In the bank. Or let's say it's $1 million per month, whatever it is. There's a reason why you want that. That reason is attached to a feeling or emotion, right? That feeling or emotion is the secret to getting that.
Right.
Now, the key to accessing that result is going to be
Yeah.
through the feeling and emotion. So let's
I
say
got
you're
you.
taking actions that you think, oh, I've got to take this action to get that result, but then it creates a backwards feeling or like a negative feeling. That's going to
Mhm.
be basically unattainable because you need to get to the feeling. So from the top down, what we do is we start with the feeling. What's the ultimate feeling that drives the action? Okay. It's a very intuitive process. Instead of driving the action that creates a feeling, which will go backwards and take you backwards. You see? And so
Yep.
this is all about perception, but the key to unlocking the right perception is unlocking access. The key to unlocking access is unlocking allowance, and the key to unlocking allowance is unlocking permission. So you got to kind of ask yourself, do I have permission to do this thing? Yes or no? Yes. Am I allowed to do this thing right now? Yes. Okay. What's my feeling behind the thing that I want to do? Oh, I want $1 million per month. What's the feeling behind it? Safety. Do I have access to safety? Yes. Do I have am I allowed to feel safe? Yes. So then I go into the feeling and I make sure none of those things are blocked and I start to take the actions from that place.
Most people don't, I mean, most adults feel allowed to do whatever the heck they want. So, how do we bridge the gap on that topic? Like most people aren't going to say, am I allowed to feel safe?" No. Like how would I even find a block there?
I mean, you got to feel into that one, right? Like you got to be truthful with yourself. Am I allowed to feel safe?
According to who? I mean, the reason I'm pressing you on this is where most people are at because they don't know
Mhm.
all the subconscious concepts that we know. I know the answer to these questions. I'm asking them for the people tuning in and going, "Well, what do you mean am I allowed, Christian? I'm 50 years old. Of course I'm allowed." You know what I mean?
Well,
Well,
that might be true.
mhm.
That might be true. But have you accepted that as well? Right? Are you accepting safety or are you rejecting safety?
Mhm.
In other words, maybe there's a pattern where you actually like feeling unsafe, although you feel like you're chasing safety. And so this is kind of like a
I would say I probably fall into that category based on the observation of my actions over the last year. Not easy to admit.
Mhm.
Based on my actions, I probably don't deeply deserve to win
Hmm.
subconsciously.
And why? Why would you say that?
The past, carrying guilt and shame from the past,
Okay. And what do you mean by that exactly?
personal stuff, just like wishing, many, many years ago, like wishing I'd done certain things differently. And I'm just being brutally honest. Like I'm being very, very, very vulnerable to share that.
Mhm.
But I am just observing as a coach my own behavior saying, guess what? Chances are I probably haven't given myself permission to actually like enjoy my life yet. You know?
Okay. So you don't have permission to safety, right? And you don't have access to safety because of that. And therefore, any type of money, doesn't matter how big or small it is not going to provide safety for you because it's your perception that's going to provide safety for you. You
Right.
don't have
And
access to that perception.
yeah. And you could have multiple millions of dollars
Mhm.
and still feel unsafe for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. In fact, I would say a lot of perceptions around money would say, man, money would actually make me less safe
A lot of people
because
would think
a,
that.
a lot of people are going to be looking at what you're doing, getting buddy buddy with you, maybe potentially even trying to use you to a certain
You could be
degree.
you could be taken advantage of way more when you have money than when you don't have money.
Right. And so safety is really, really, really important. And it all comes down to this one belief. Do you feel like you're safe right now on the planet, in the world, as a human being? Yes or no? Yes, I do. Things will be a lot easier for you. Your life is going to be a lot easier, right? You're going to have fun. You're going to be happy. You're going to be joyful. You're going to be positive. You're going to be all the things that people are seeking, most people, right? Because of that one simple belief. It, and that's what happened today. As we were talking, you realized that moment, like, oh, it's not the money. It's not the thing that keeps me safe. It's my perception around the money that keeps me safe. The safety is within me, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, you can take multiple steps forward without having to go back now. But it comes down to the mechanics, right? And the mechanics it's confusing. It's a little bit hard to follow, but once you get it, you can't unget it. Like it unlocks everything, right?
Once you get it, you can't unget it. So some of our questions are like, well, how do I get it still? Like, how do you understand that?
Who's asking that? Or what's the
Anna.
okay?
Anna's in the chat saying, I want a breakthrough. Like, how do you get to that truth? On an intellectual basis, I understand it, but how do I have that breakthrough? That's a darn good question.
Well, you got to ask yourself right now, do you feel safe? And honestly, like evaluate that, because that's going to be probably at least 50% of the battle. And everything will be affected by that on a deep level, right? Making money, not making money, going through business, going through actions in business, um, having relationships, health is going to be affected by that. Like all of it's going to be affected by that. So I would say, if I can put my finger on one of the most powerful beliefs and perceptions around that belief is, are you safe as a human being? Do you feel safe as a human being? And we could even go into context. To what degree do you feel safe? Right? Then we can start to work with, you know, what do you have access to in terms of your perceptions? What is accessible? Because it's not a matter of manifesting it. It's a matter of allowing it to come in,
Accessing it already
access,
being
accessing it, right?
accessing. Yeah.
I had this really, really interesting dream a while back. I said, what if everything was like, it's not a matter of things changing through time. What if everything happened the same all the time? There was just a gap of time and everything happened all the same. But us as spiritual beings would come and experience that from different roles,
Nice.
right? So like one role I'd be Christian, next role I'd be Amber, next role I'd be, an animal, next role, and everything happened the same. The series of events were all identical. Nothing changed, but the roles changed throughout that time frame. And
Just a new
it's
perception.
kind of like that. It's kind of like understanding how powerful the perceptions are and what's accessible during this time right now. And so let's deconstruct what is accessible. Well, there's a huge amount in terms of obviously spiritual, energetic, mind power type stuff accessible, right? Connection to God's source, understanding energy, understanding the universe, you know. Um, and if you can put your finger on one thing, I would say the most powerful thing would be connecting to God or source.
Mhm.
So if you can just do that with the right lens, then you can access the rest. But what does that mean exactly? To what degree? What's the context? It means through feeling and emotion, through feeling. And so if you can now start to narrow it down, how do I want to feel, right? If I had to play tug of war, is it positive or negative? Negative needs to be there. We know that, but we want to feel positive, right? How do I feel that way? Well, you need to have access to that perception. That perception is going to create the feeling. The feeling is going to create the result. And so if we can access the perception, we can create the feeling, and then we can take the actions to create the result. And so that's what this is all about. That's the real secret. That's the real manifestation, right? Because the manifestation isn't you going and creating something, it's you accepting something.
Yeah. And also the breakthrough is it's simply in the understanding. So here's the thing. This is the great part. Oh gosh. It instead of like work to do, like I'm gonna go manifest this thing. I'm gonna go sit in my little meditation room and I'm gonna close my eyes. I'm gonna do this thing. And I'm gonna visualize. I'm gonna feel it. I'm gonna. That's all cool and feels amazing.
But why
But
are you
here's the
doing that?
thing.
Why are you doing that?
What do you mean? Probably to feel safe.
To access the
Yeah, but
perception.
what I'm getting at here is that the understanding of this is an instantaneous access to the
For sure.
manifestation. That's
For
what I'm
sure.
saying.
But most people are doing the meditation, the prayer, the blah, 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 the blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah
yeah,
to
right.
access the perception.
Yeah, but even just realizing that you've been living your life a certain way that might not serve you, you can change that right this freaking second.
Right.
The
For sure.
breakthrough is in the understanding.
Yeah. When you
It
understand the mechanics.
There's no work that needs to be done. So like my breakthrough today was like, holy wow. Like, oh my God, my whole world shook up. And then I do this from that place. I do that from that place. I do this. Holy wow. So
Mhm.
much validation. No wonder I've been suffering. No wonder I've been feeling this way. Every single thing I do was from this place. And it doesn't have to be. And it's
Right.
given me nothing positive. And I can change that right now. And I'm not attached to any outcome. It's like, whoa. And then my point being, just go live your life. Next step, you live your life.
Yeah, for sure. And you live it from the perception that is accessible from the feeling behind what you want to create.
Because here's the thing. The knowledge, the breakthrough created a certain feeling.
Yeah.
And that's really all that matters.
The feeling. The
Mhm.
feeling is the secret sauce, right? The feeling is the real secret. So it's not the thought. The thought is the misconception. The thought is a map to the feeling. The feeling is the thing. So we need to access the perception around that feeling. Right? That's the key. Access the perception of that feeling. And so from top down, you would you would choose what is your top thing that you want. Let's say over a day,
Mm,
what's today? What's the thing that I want today? You can do this on the micro or the macro level.
okay.
Say I want to make $10,000 today. Okay, what's the feeling behind that? The feeling is confidence, right? Do I have access to the perception around confidence right now? Yes. I'm going to access that perception. I'm going to feel into confidence. And I'm going to say, okay, what's the next step? Show me. And then it shows up.
That's
And I
why the
say,
how
okay,
doesn't
boom.
matter.
That's the top down. And I say, boom, I'm going to take that action and I'm going to go through the motion, right? And I'm going to really monitor my feeling, maintaining and holding on to confidence. and then I'm going to let go of the result simultaneously. I'm going to say, okay, if it shows up again, that's cool. If not, boom, right? At least I did my part. And so, yes, you're co-creating, but I like to look at it from a different lens. You're
Accessing.
co-accepting or co-accessing. Yeah.
You're accessing, it's already there.
Co-accessing
You're
because
not creating anything out of nothing. It's already there.
it's already there.
You're just not accessing it.
Exactly. And you can access it through the perception, which leads to the feeling. That's how you access it. That's how you gain experience access to it, right? As
Mhm.
it shows up as a manifestation in your life. So I found something really powerful about 3 years ago when we were in Thailand when we were doing I was teaching people on energetics, and at the time it was cryptocurrency. One of the things that I found was, these technologies like the internet and cryptocurrency and all this really advanced technology is not a invention. Well, what is it? It's a discovery. Discovery of what? Discovery of the way the universe works. What happened? Access. Accessible. Boom. It's accessible now. Still there? I lost you. Hmm. So this is how it works, right? It's not necessarily, or it could be, but I think the misconception is with co-creation and creation. Co-creation and creation are something that seem difficult, and there's a friction there. Am I still on? Hmm. When you start to look through the lens of accessible, allowing, receiving, that is a much easier motion. So I'm not sure if I'm even on now, but I will leave at that. All right, guys.
Okay, we're back. Sorry, you guys. We are back in the studio. The power went out for a second. Christian's on his way back. Hello, hello. Let us know if you're still with us. Thank you so much for your patience. Coming back through that link, honey? Christian? Christian? Hmm. All right. Well, I'm going to continue this conversation with you guys. Okay, what were we talking about? Oh my gosh. My internet went out. Okay, Christian was sharing. Amazing, Anna. Christian was sharing a story about when we were in Thailand. So I'm going to let him back in the studio.
Oh, here we go.
Hopping right back in, sweetheart, to the conversation about
Are we still live? Oh, okay.
when you were teaching cryptocurrency in Thailand.
Yeah. I thought I'd close that out, but
Oh, you probably did because I dropped off before you.
so I realized that the technologies, the super advanced technologies that we have access to right now, like the internet, cryptocurrency, all this crazy stuff that we're seeing, AI, all that, it's not necessarily an invention. Some of it is, but I would say most of it is a discovery. The discovery of bells and whistles of how the universe works. And so we just had what happened is when this technology became a thing, it became accessible through a discovery, right? And so that's the same metaphor that I'm talking about. When that goal becomes a manifestation, becomes a thing, whether it's $10, $1,000,000, $100,000, whatever it is, it's just accessible to you.
Right. Ah, that's a really good analogy. It's almost like if you think of like different bank accounts,
Yeah.
right? Let's say I go get a bank account at Chase and I move my money from Bank of America over to Chase, all of a sudden it's accessible in Chase, even though technically the money existed already. I just now have access to it from that specific location.
Exactly. And there's already, you know, endless amounts of money at this point. It's just
Totally.
making it accessible. But you
Right.
start at the micro. The micro is going to be the feeling behind that thing. What's the feeling behind why you want to make $1,000,000? What's the feeling behind that? Well, it could be as simple as so you can feel confident. Okay. The more things that take you out of confidence, the harder it's going to be to get that. You see? The more things that pull you out of confidence, the harder it's going to be because your feeling is associated to that thing. And so the more things that the opposite is true, the more things that align with confidence will get you closer to that thing, especially when you're taking the actions that will produce that thing. Now, the big problem that we found, you and I found, is that we were taking actions without understanding the context around the feeling.
Totally. Oh, yeah.
And so we would want to make $1,000,000, let's say, and the feeling behind it wasn't clearly defined, wasn't understood, yada, yada. And then we would take the actions and it would create the opposite feeling. And therefore, it was 10 to 100 times harder to do that.
Harder than it needed to be the whole darn time.
Here's the kicker: no matter what actions you take, you could be
Yeah.
taking the actions with the best systems, the best strategies, the best this, the best that, the best coaches, the best anything. But if those two things are not aligned, it will be very difficult to get to that end result.
Right.
So we must access and align.
And this
It's
is the
not about
overnight.
alignment.
Sorry. Go ahead. I'm so
It's
sorry.
not just about alignment. It's about accessibility as well. Right. And that is the secret. That's the real secret.
The real secret.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say this is perfect for like the idea of the overnight success
Mhm.
is just typically someone working for a really long time from out of alignment. They have like authority built in the market, they have an audience, they have amazing offers and blah 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 blah. And then they all of a sudden they get this stuff, right? And then boom.
Boom. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. I love seeing that happen for people. I love being around people who it just everything comes so easy to them. I love being in that energy. It's amazing, right? I haven't
Mhm.
had that experience. I've made it way harder than it needed to be. It's also why I love coaching like the deep stuff because I haven't always had it easy. And so I love holding space for people who really get this stuff and are like I just love the deep work. But and because when you help someone facilitate that breakthrough, you can also be a coach to the overnight success, right?
Mhm.
Because it's so badass to help someone who's just like maybe drug through the mud themselves by accident, not really knowing how much pain they were creating themselves. And then you help them get rid of that. You help them understand how the subconscious works. You help them rewrite those stories.
Yeah.
And then they just skyrocket. Like, how do you think we've helped people go from like 20K months to 70K months in like a month? Like, fast. That work. It's not the strategy, it's
No,
the deep work, it's the understanding of this stuff.
I wouldn't even say it's deep work. I would say it's more like hidden work
Hidden. Okay, even more than deep then.
because deep seems like there's a lot to do. This really isn't a lot to do.
No, it's
It's
not. You're
more
right.
about gaining access to the information, gaining access to understanding the information at a core level, right? And so this is the type of stuff that when you get it, there's no looking back.
There's no ungetting it.
There's no ungetting this stuff. And
Mhm.
so it's a really, really, really important, especially if you've gone through the ringer. Like we've gone through the ringer. We spent 10 years. We've seen coaches that did it in like 2 years. And we're like, dang, how did they do that? Like,
Mhm.
well, that's really good because they were able to do it. We spent about 10 years, but I also think that we're going to be able to help, especially near into the future, at a much deeper level, right?
Mhm.
And so, and I should say, simplifying things, making things a lot faster, making things a lot more efficient because of the process that we went through. And it was very meticulous as well. And so
Yeah.
that's that's a blessing. The 10 years, most people would say, oh, it took so long for us to do it. It took like, 5 times what it took somebody else. The truth is, that's a blessing for us because now we can apply those things a lot faster, right?
Yeah,
And
I mean,
we
that's a
know.
blessing on a lot of levels.
Mhm.
That's a blessing because we learned that you need to automate things so that you actually have the time to do the important stuff.
So you can
I
get
mean,
into the feeling,
it's a
to get into
blessing
the feeling.
from like 1,000 directions. I would never change the path that we've taken, and it
Right.
hasn't been easy. And
Oh,
I still love that about it. You know what I mean? Like I'm really confident helping someone through anything, like literally anything. And also, I recognize that I'm obviously not perfect. I haven't figured it out yet.
mhm.
It's interesting to share from this perspective. And I want you to know if you're watching this from this perspective, especially if you followed our work for a while and maybe it's a surprise to you what I've gone through, I want you to recognize something. The best coach and leader for someone else is the person that's just a couple steps ahead. I want you to gain confidence in my story because even though I'm going through it, I had a big breakthrough today, but in general, I go through it more than people think. Here's why I'm telling you this. If you resonate with that, and if that's ever created like any sort of like imposter syndrome or not good enough feeling or anything, I want you to use today's lesson to make you way more confident than you've ever been because if you do analyze life like this, if you do have had not silver platter experience,
Mhm.
you are more capable. You are the perfect leader for the next person. That has equipped you with what you need to be the best coach in the world, especially if you're still overcoming it. Why? Because you are, um, what's the term? Still committed to that process. Like you are definitely so equipped, especially if you're not 20 years in the future from the problem. If you have at least a little bit of understanding still as to what your clients are going through, you should feel so insanely confident.
Mhm.
It's beautiful stuff. I'm grateful to be an example today.
Yeah, huge day. A lot of good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I hope you guys found this useful, valuable, maybe change the way that you see things slightly into a good, positive shift. To close it out, we're going to open up. This is not something that we do very often, but we figured, hey, the big breakthrough is here. We want to share this energy with other people. So if you are watching this and you feel called to do some deeper work in this area, we're going to open up some private sessions for one day next week. This will be a paid private session. We'll be doing an hour's worth of work specifically around the topic of accessibility, meaning getting access to the things that you want. It will be both subconscious and conscious work. And hopefully during that time, we will create the breakthrough that can change the most impact, the positive direction that you want in your life the fastest during that time together. So
Amazing.
what I'm going to do, I don't know how to go about this, but you can drop the link, Amber.
It disappeared when we lost the stream. So see if you
Oh,
can find it.
yeah, I have it here.
Okay,
So I'll send
perfect.
it to you because I know you're on more places than I am.
Perfect.
I'll
Yeah,
send it
send it
to
to
you
me
in
on
chat.
Facebook.
Yep.
You guys, we haven't opened up private sessions for a good couple of years. Just FYI. This
Yep.
is a very special treat that came through today when we were having this conversation about wanting to share this breakthrough publicly today.
So we're going to open up 8 spots. It's going to be 5:55 to lock in one of those spots. We're going to close this obviously within the next 2 days so we can actually do the session. And the session will be held, I think, middle of next week, something like that. And there's going to be 8 spots available, and then we'll
There's
bump the
only
price
8.
back up to the $2,000 price point per session.
Yeah. Regular price 2,000, 555 for the holidays for the breakthrough. If you catch this long into the future and you want to inquire about those sessions, reach out. We might run specials here and there, but I don't think we've rolled this out for 2 years.
Mhm.
So, just to give you context, you can reach Christian or myself on all social channels. Christian, I noticed your last name wasn't here earlier,
Oh,
but
it's okay.
you know, it's okay. Reach out to me. My team will be in my DMs and help you get a link to that, even if it's long into the future. You know, this might fill up today. This might fill up just before the last day. So if you know it's meant for you, follow your heart and pick it up before it fills up, because we won't extend it past 8. I'm really excited to do the steeper work. Christian, with all the results we've helped people get over all the years, with all the coaching that we've done, the funny thing is every single person, every time I've interviewed a client on like for a testimonial, it's always, what's your favorite thing about the work? This work. This is the
I
work.
I remember a wonderful client that we had in the early stages. This client came in, she actually does this work now because we trained her on how to do this work this pandemic.
Mm,
But, she was having a hard time, I think it was financially, doing some things is with her real estate business, and then, we did this work, and she sent me a message, and it wasn't this work that we're gonna do on this coming session, but it'll be very similar, um, but she sent me a message saying, "Hey, I just closed the biggest deal in my real estate career, $1.6 million."
I know.
It was, like, massive for her. So this is the type of impact it could have. So if you're
Yep.
considering this and you're a high-level entrepreneur, and you know that there's just a little bit of work that needs to be done to move the biggest needle forward, then I think this might be a good move for you.
Yeah,
Hopefully, we can make that
definitely.
happen on the call in a private session.
I have another client in mind,
Yeah.
and she hired us for this work in order to overcome her negative beliefs about her family members being entrepreneurs. Okay.
Oh, wow.
That, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
And also, she was trying to have her second baby at the time.
Mhm.
And she had that baby long ago. And she actually started a couple of her own businesses after overcoming her negative beliefs about her family's business, which is like the most beautiful thing ever, right? She now owns at least $1 million in real estate personally, maybe more. And she messaged me the other day that her private veterinary business is thriving.
Nice.
And she was working a 9 to 5 when we met, trying, just trying to get out of her own way. It's this work, you guys. This is the stuff. It's hard to call it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's this information, it's this way of being that will change your life. This is the good stuff.
Cool.
I'm riding high on my breakthrough today, frankly. Feeling
Yeah.
really good. Feeling
Awesome.
really, really good.
All right. Well, that sums it up. That's an hour. We went an hour.
Awesome.
Cool.
Does time really exist?
Uh,
For the next one,
it's
honey.
a perception. Does it exist though?
Sure is.
It's a perception. Yeah.
Sure is.
All right.
Okay. I can't wait to see who we're working closely with to close out this incredible year. Thank you in advance. We love you guys.
Bye.
Catch you on the next one. Bye.